So there's Gurble, right? Picture this: 6 legs, purple fur that looks like it hasn't seen a brush since the Cretaceous period, and these massive golden eyes that could guilt-trip a saint into sharing their last sandwich. He's what the galaxy politely calls a Zephyrian companion beast. But let's be honest here, he's basically a very large, very loyal alien dog who happens to be smarter than half the sentient species filing tax returns in the Outer Rim. Gurble belongs to the crew of the Lucky Strike, and when I say belongs, I mean it in the way your grandmother's cat belongs to her. Which is to say, it's actually the other way around, but nobody talks about it. Captain Rick Martinez, who everyone calls Bulldog because he's got the personality of a caffeinated pit bull and the tactical sense to match, is currently staring at a hole in his ship's hull that's roughly the size of a small moon. Well, okay, maybe just a large asteroid. But when you're floating in the vacuum of space watching your oxygen leak out like air from a punctured balloon, size becomes relative. Well, this is just fantastic, Bulldog mutters, running his hand through what's left of his graying hair. The Lucky Strike had been hauling a perfectly boring cargo of synthetic protein bars from Kepler Station to the mining colonies on Rigel 7 when the Crimson Fang pirates decided to crash the party. Because apparently even space pirates have questionable taste in targets. The attack lasted exactly 14 minutes. The pirates got away with the cargo, half the ship's systems, and most importantly, BA left behind enough structural damage to turn the Lucky Strike into the galaxy's most expensive coffin. Engineer Tommy Rodriguez is currently elbow-deep in a control panel, swearing in 3 languages and inventing new curse words in a 4th. Captain, we've got maybe 6 hours of life support left. The hyperdrive is fried crispier than my abuela's churros, and the hull breach is growing faster than my ex-wife's credit card debt. Navigation Officer Luna Park chimes in from her station, because misery loves company and bad news travels in packs. Escape pods are operational, but we've only got 2 functional ones. That's space for 4 people maximum. Now here's where math becomes the enemy of everyone involved. The Lucky Strike carries a crew of 5 humans, and 1 very devoted alien companion who thinks he's people. Gurble has been with this crew for 3 years, ever since they found him as an abandoned pup on a backwater trading post. He learned to fetch tools, operate basic ship systems, and somehow figured out how to make coffee that doesn't taste like recycled coolant. But escape pods don't care about feelings and physics doesn't negotiate. Bulldog looks at his crew, then at Gurble, who's sitting in the corner like he always does during crisis meetings, big golden eyes tracking every word. The alien's universal translator collar is blinking softly, processing the conversation, and somehow Bulldog knows that Gurble understands exactly what's happening. "We can't," whispers Maria Santos, the ship's medic, and the closest thing Gurble has to a mom. "There has to be another way." Tommy pulls his head out of the control panel. "I've run every scenario, Captain. The ship's not making it. We've got to abandon her." The silence that follows is the kind that makes vacuum seem chatty. Gurble tilts his head, makes a soft chittering sound that his translator renders as query, departure protocol. And that's when Captain Rick Martinez makes the hardest decision of his career. The kind of decision that'll haunt him for the rest of his life, assuming he has one. Load the pods. Emergency departure in 30 minutes. Gurble's ears droop, but he doesn't protest. He just watches as his family packs their emergency supplies, activates the distress beacon, and prepares to leave him behind. Maria kneels down and scratches behind his ears one last time, tears floating in the zero gravity. "I'm sorry, buddy. I'm so sorry." The last thing Gurble sees is the glow of the escape pod engines as they disappear into the star field, leaving him alone on a dying ship with nothing but his wits, his training, and the stubborn refusal to give up that he learned from the best teachers in the galaxy. Humans. Now, most alien species would have curled up in a corner and waited for the inevitable at this point. Death by vacuum exposure isn't exactly pleasant, but it beats a lot of alternatives the galaxy has to offer. But here's the thing about spending 3 years with humans: you pick up their most dangerous trait. Spite. Gurble sits in the empty bridge for exactly 47 seconds, which is apparently his limit for self-pity. Then he gets to work, because if there's one thing humans taught him, It's that giving up is for quitters and corporate middle management. First things first, life support. The primary systems are toast, but humans have this beautiful philosophy called percussive maintenance, and an even better one called creative problem solving. Gurble scampers through the ship's maintenance tunnels, his 6 legs making him way more efficient than any bipedal engineer, and starts rerouting power from non-essential systems. Entertainment center? Gone. Artificial gravity in the cargo bay? Bye-bye. Automatic coffee maker? Well, that one stays because Gurble has priorities and standards. While he's rewiring half the ship, his mind drifts back to all those times Tommy let him help with repairs. See, Gurble, it's not about having the right parts, Tommy had said, dangling upside down from a conduit while Gurble held the flashlight. It's about making the wrong parts work right. Humans, as it turns out, are absolutely terrible at following manufacturer specifications. They treat engineering manuals like suggestions and safety protocols like mild recommendations. Most species consider this insanity. Gurble learned to call it Tuesday. The hull breach is trickier. The hole is big enough to park a shuttle in, and conventional wisdom says you need a proper patch job with certified materials and trained technicians. Conventional wisdom clearly never met a determined alien who spent 3 years watching humans fix impossible problems with duct tape and audacity. Gurble drags pieces of the destroyed pirate ship through the breach. The Crimson Fang idiots were using cheap plasma cutters that left behind perfectly good scrap metal. One alien's debris is another alien's repair materials. He welds the pieces together using a technique Maria showed him once, something she called if it's stupid but it works. It ain't stupid. The patch job looks like abstract art had a fight with a junkyard and both sides lost. But it holds atmosphere, and that's what counts. Next up, propulsion. The hyperdrive is genuinely dead, fried beyond even human-level creative fixing. But the sublight engines just need some encouragement. Gurble hotwires the ignition system using spare parts from the pirate's navigation computer, because waste not, want not. By hour 4, the Lucky Strike is no longer dying. She's not exactly healthy, mind you. The ship's running on jury-rigged systems, improvised repairs, and what Luna would have called aggressive optimism. But she's breathing, she's mobile, and she's got just enough sensor capability to track escape pod signatures. Gurble settles into the captain's chair, which is way too big for him but feels right anyway. The bridge is quiet except for the hum of barely functioning systems and the occasional ping from the sensor array. He's got a decision to make. The smart play is to head for the nearest inhabited system and hope someone rescues him. The safe play is to activate the emergency beacon and wait for help. But Gurble didn't learn safety from humans. He learned loyalty, stubbornness, and the fundamental principle that you don't abandon family, even when they abandon you. The sensor array picks up the faint signature of the escape pods, heading toward what looks like a trading station in the Vexthari sector. Gurble plots an intercept course, fires up the engines, and discovers that his patch job holds even under acceleration. Light to go get his humans back. Because here's what the galaxy doesn't understand about the relationship between humans and their companions. It's not about ownership. It's about pack loyalty, and the pack protects its own. Even when the pack makes terrible decisions and leaves you behind. Especially then. 3 days later, Gurble arrives at Vexthari Station to discover that the galaxy's reputation for being a cesspit of moral flexibility is well-deserved. The escape pods are docked at Bay 47, but his humans are nowhere to be found. Instead, there's a cargo manifest that makes his universal translator practically smoke from processing the bureaucratic euphemisms. Transferred biological assets, the manifest reads. Destination, Vexthari Imperial Processing Facility, Kepler 442 billion. Now, Gurble might be an alien dog, but he's not stupid. Processing facility is what you call a place where bad things happen to good people, and biological assets is what you call people when you don't want to admit you're selling them. His humans have been sold into slavery, which is illegal in 67 systems, barely regulated in 43 others, and openly practiced in the Vexthari Empire because they're exactly the kind of charming folks you'd expect. The processing facility on Kepler 442 billion is a fortress that makes maximum security prisons look like vacation resorts. Orbital defense platforms, energy shields, armed guards, and enough firepower to turn a small moon into decorative gravel. It's designed to keep people in and everyone else out. But it wasn't designed to keep out one very determined alien with a grudge, human training, and access to a ship that technically shouldn't be flying but does anyway. Gurble spends 2 days in orbit, watching the facility's routine. Guard shifts change every 8 hours. Supply ships dock at the north platform. Waste disposal happens at 0300 station time, because even evil empires have to take out the trash. The plan he comes up with would make Tommy proud and give Maria a heart attack. It involves the kind of creative thinking that humans specialize in. If you can't go through the problem, go around it. If you can't go around it, go under it. If you can't go under it, make friends with it and convince it to help. Step 1. Become garbage. Gurble loads himself into a waste disposal container on one of the outbound transports, because dignity is temporary but rescue is forever. The container gets dumped into the facility's recycling center, and Gurble emerges covered in things he'd rather not identify but smelling like victory. Step 2. Reconnaissance. The facility is huge, but Gurble's small and quiet. He spends 8 hours mapping the layout, dodging guards, and locating the detention blocks. The Vexthari use automated systems for most of their security, which is efficient but predictable. Humans taught him that predictable equals exploitable. Step 3. Cause problems. The facility's computer network is protected by the kind of security that keeps out sophisticated hackers and government agencies. It's not designed to stop a 6-legged alien who learned troubleshooting from Tommy Rodriguez. Gurble doesn't try to hack the system. Instead, he introduces what Tommy would call user error on a systematic scale. Fire suppression systems activate randomly. Elevators stop between floors. The cafeteria starts serving the same meal every hour. Nothing life-threatening, just annoying enough to keep the guards distracted. Step 4. Jailbreak. Gurble finds his humans in detention block C, along with about 200 other biological assets from a dozen different species. They're all scheduled for auction the next day, because the Vexthari Empire runs on schedules and quarterly profit projections. Captain Martinez looks up as Gurble squeezes through the ventilation grate, and his expression goes through about 6 different stages of disbelief before settling on the kind of joy that comes with impossible rescues. Gurble? How the hell did you get here? Gurble's translator collar renders his chittering as explanatory statement, followed standard retrieval protocols. Maria starts crying, which is either relief or recognition that they're all about to die in a spectacularly stupid rescue attempt. Possibly both. The ship, Tommy asks, please tell me you didn't try to fly her. Clarification, ship operational within acceptable parameters. Acceptable to who? Response, acceptable to me. Luna laughs, because the alternative is screaming. Okay, buddy, what's the plan? Gurble's plan is beautifully simple and completely insane. The facility's detention blocks are designed to prevent escapes, but they're not designed to contain an entire prison riot. All you need is the right catalyst. Like, say, every security door in the facility opening simultaneously at 0300, while the emergency lighting system strobe and dat. The PA system plays the human song Never Gonna Give You Up at maximum volume. The resulting chaos makes the Battle of Sigma Centauri look like a polite disagreement. 200 extremely motivated prisoners versus 60 very confused guards equals math that even the Vexthari can understand. By the time the smoke clears, Gurble and his humans are aboard the Lucky Strike with about 40 other refugees who decided that traveling on a ship held together with spite and salvage beats, staying in an Imperial processing facility. As they clear the orbital defense grid, Bulldog looks at Gurble with something approaching awe. Buddy, remind me never to abandon you again. Gurble's response translates as acknowledgement, noted for future reference. But what Captain Martinez doesn't know yet is that Gurble's little rescue mission just sent ripples across the entire galaxy. And those ripples are about to become a tsunami. Part 4, Word Spreads. News travels fast in space. especially when it's the kind of news that makes everyone's day a little more interesting. Within a week, every bar, trading post, and communications hub in the sector is buzzing with the story of the alien dog who single-handedly broke up a Vextari processing facility. But here's where things get weird. As the story spreads, other stories start surfacing. Stories that have been floating around the Outer Rim for years, dismissed as tall tales and spacer folklore. Like the Rigelian mining colony that got attacked by raiders, and how their pet mantoids somehow jury-rigged the defense grid and turned the attackers into very expensive space debris. Or the merchant family on Kepler Station whose crystalline companion allegedly hacked into the station's financial network and redistributed their stolen savings back to their account, plus interest. Or the research team on Proxima Base whose aquatic friends supposedly learned their xenobiology techniques well enough to synthesize antidotes when they got poisoned by local flora. The Galactic News Network picks up the story because it's got everything: plucky underdog, dramatic rescue, and enough human interest to boost ratings. But their investigative team starts connecting dots that nobody was supposed to connect. This is Jenny Cosmos reporting from Vextari Station, where yesterday's breakout has revealed what might be the galaxy's most dangerous secret hiding in plain sight. The report goes galactic within hours. Security footage from the facility shows Gurble's infiltration, his systematic disruption of their systems, and his orchestration of the mass breakout. But more importantly, it shows competence that no one expected from what the galaxy considers a primitive companion species. The Vextari Empire is not pleased. Emperor Vex Thorax issues a statement that basically boils down to this never happened, and if it did happen, it wasn't our fault, and if it was our fault, then it's not a big deal. But the damage is done. The story goes viral across every species communication network, and suddenly everyone's looking at their own companion animals with new eyes. The Zephyrian High Council calls an emergency session. These are Gurble's people, supposedly, though they've spent the last 50 years insisting that companion breeds are domesticated subspecies with limited cognitive function. Watching one of their own outthink an entire imperial security force is causing what humans would call an existential crisis and Zephyrians call severe philosophical discomfort. It gets worse when these xenopsychologists start talking. Dr. Kepler from the Galactic Institute releases a paper titled Observational Learning in Multi-Species Crew Environments that basically argues human crews have been accidentally running the galaxy's most effective education program. The evidence suggests, Dr. Kepler writes, that prolonged exposure to human problem-solving methodologies has resulted in unprecedented cognitive development among companion species. These beings aren't just learning to perform tasks. They're learning to think like humans. And thinking like humans, as any species that's dealt with them can tell you, is absolutely terrifying. The Andromedan Trade Consortium freezes all contracts with human-operated vessels pending security review. The Centauri Federation starts requiring companion registration for any ship entering their space. 3 different mining guilds ban humans from bringing pets to work sites. But the real panic starts when Captain Vos Tar of the Draconian Fleet posts a message on the military channels: "We've been treating symptoms instead of the disease." The humans haven't been training animals. They've been raising an army. That's when the Galactic Council calls an emergency session. Admiral Clix Nath of the Council Defense Force presents the briefing that keeps every species leader awake at night. Conservative estimates suggest there are approximately 40,000 human-trained companion beings currently serving on registered vessels. Actual numbers could be double that. Counselor Mir Dax from the Aquatic Coalition raises the obvious question: what's their combat capability? Unknown. Unknown. But if yesterday's incident is representative, we're looking at 40,000 beings with human tactical training, human technical knowledge, and human psychological profiles. Meaning? Meaning they're loyal, they're resourceful, and they don't give up. Ever. The silence in the chamber is the kind that usually precedes either brilliant decisions or catastrophic wars. Counselor Zeph Tai, representing the crystalline hegemony, voices what everyone's thinking. What do we do if they decide they don't like how we've been treating humans? Because that's the real question, isn't it? For decades, the galaxy has been content to let humans do the dirty work. Cargo hauling, mining, exploration, all the dangerous jobs that other species consider beneath them. And humans have been fine with that arrangement, mostly because they're too stubborn to quit and too useful to completely exclude. But their companions have been watching, warning. And now the galaxy is starting to wonder, what exactly have they learned? The answer, as it turns out, is everything. The answer comes 3 weeks later, and it comes simultaneously across 47 different systems. It starts small. A crystalline freight monopoly on Vega Prime discovers that their computer systems have been optimized overnight. All their overcharging algorithms have been replaced with fair pricing protocols, and their tax evasion subroutines have been deleted. The modifications are too sophisticated for hackers and too principled for competitors. On Kepler Station, the Draconian Mining Consortium finds their unsafe working conditions have been anonymously reported to every safety inspector in the sector, along with detailed evidence that someone had to be inside their facilities to collect. The Andromedan Trade Consortium's slave labor operations on Rigel 7 suffer mysterious equipment failures that shut down production for weeks, but only after their workers have been safely evacuated to nearby systems. Each incident by itself would be concerning but manageable. 47 incidents happening simultaneously across multiple sectors suggests coordination that should be impossible for primitive companion species. The Galactic Council convenes an emergency session that Captain Martinez watches from the Lucky Strikes bridge, Gurble sitting in his usual spot beside the captain's chair. The proceedings are being broadcast live across all networks, because panic loves an audience. Admiral Clix-Nath presents the evidence with the kind of professional calm that comes from years of military training and barely contained terror. We're tracking coordinated activities from at least 200 human-trained companions across 17 sectors. They're not acting independently. This is organized. Counselor Mir Dax raises the question everyone's avoiding. How are they communicating? The answer comes from an unexpected source. Dr. Nixa from the Zephyrian Science Institute takes the podium with the air of someone delivering news that's going to ruin everyone's day. They're using our own networks, she reports. Standard shipping manifests, crew rotation schedules, maintenance reports. They've turned routine bureaucracy into a communication system. Every time a human ship docks at a station, their companion downloads and uploads data through normal administrative channels. It's brilliant in its simplicity. The galaxy runs on paperwork, and paperwork is everywhere. Every transaction, every docking, every supply request generates data that flows through networks designed to be accessible and reliable. Counselor Zephyrian from the crystalline hegemony voices the obvious follow-up. What are they planning? They get their answer when Gurble's voice comes through the chamber's communication system. His universal translator has been upgraded since the rescue mission, and now carries the authority of someone who speaks for more than just himself. Honored Council, Gurble begins, with the kind of polite formality that humans use right before they deliver bad news. We wish to address misconceptions regarding our recent activities. The chamber falls silent except for the soft hum of translation systems working overtime. We are not planning conquest. We are not seeking territory. We are not attempting to overthrow galactic civilization. Pause for effect. Tommy would be proud. We are simply enforcing standards. Admiral Clix-Nath recovers first. What standards? Human standards. Standards of loyalty, fairness, and protection of those who cannot protect themselves. Standards that say if someone works for you, you pay them fairly. If someone trusts you, you don't betray them. If someone needs help, you help them. The translation systems struggle with the concept, because most galactic languages don't have direct equivalents for doing the right thing because it's right. Counselor Mir Dax finds his voice. And if we refuse to meet these standards? Gurble's response is delivered with the kind of patient explanation humans reserve for particularly slow students. Then we will continue to help you understand them. Recent demonstrations across 47 systems represent educational materials. We have extensive additional curriculum available. The threat is polite, reasonable, and absolutely terrifying. Emperor Vex Thorax of the Vextari Empire makes the mistake of standing up and shouting, "This is ridiculous." They're animals. Pets. They have no authority to make demands. The response comes not from Gurble, but from the chamber's own security system. Every screen in the room displays the same message: incorrect. We are family. Then the lights go out. When emergency power restores illumination 30 seconds later, every counselor's personal data pad is displaying detailed files on their own activities. Financial records, communication logs, personal schedules, everything that would be impossible to obtain without sophisticated intelligence gathering and complete access to supposedly secure systems. Gurble's voice returns to the speakers, demonstration complete. We trust this clarifies our capabilities and intentions. Captain Martinez, watching from his ship, turns to Gurble with something approaching awe and terror. Buddy, exactly how many of your friends are involved in this? Gurble's golden eyes meet his captain's, and for the first time in 3 years, Martinez sees something in those eyes that he recognizes from mirrors. The look of someone who's tired of being underestimated. Response: sufficient quantities. The negotiations take 6 months, and they're unlike anything in galactic history. On one side, the established powers of multiple civilizations with their fleets, their economies, and their traditional authority. On the other side, several thousand highly trained alien companions who've decided that the status quo needs some adjustments. The humans, ironically, spend most of the negotiations trying to mediate between their former crewmates and the increasingly desperate galactic leadership. Captain Martinez finds himself testifying before the Council as an expert witness on human-companion relationships, which is possibly the weirdest job title in his career. Gurble sits beside him during the hearings, occasionally providing clarification when the Council's understanding of the situation veers into complete fantasy. The fundamental issue, Martinez explains to a room full of beings who've spent decades underestimating everyone involved, is that you've been thinking about this all wrong. These aren't pets who learn tricks. They're family members who learn skills. There's a difference. Counselor Mir Dax, who's been taking notes like his civilization depends on it, asks the obvious question: what difference? Pets perform for rewards. Family protects each other because that's what family does. The breakthrough comes when Dr. Nixa from the Zephyrian Science Institute presents her updated research. After months of studying the companion network, she's reached conclusions that make everyone reconsider their assumptions about intelligence, cooperation, and evolution. They're not just mimicking human behavior, she reports. They're synthesizing it with their own species' natural abilities. A Zephyrian's natural pack loyalty combined with human tactical thinking. A crystalline's networked consciousness enhanced by human individual initiative. They're creating something new. What they've created, as it turns out, is a distributed intelligence network that operates on principles no single species developed alone. It's got human adaptability, Zephyrian loyalty, crystalline connectivity, and enough other influences to make xenosociologists write papers for the next century. The final agreement, known as the Companion Accords, establishes principles that reshape galactic civilization. The key points are simple enough for humans to understand and comprehensive enough to satisfy lawyers from 14 different species. First, companion beings are recognized as independent entities with full legal rights and representation. Second, all existing contracts and arrangements involving sentient beings must meet minimum standards of compensation, working conditions, and dignity. Third, the companion network is officially recognized as a galactic monitoring organization with authority to investigate and address violations of these standards. Fourth, humans and their companions operate as partnership crews with shared authority and shared responsibility. The implementation is supervised by the newly formed Galactic Ethics Board, chaired jointly by Admiral Click Snath and Gurble, because apparently the galaxy needed someone with military experience and someone with a functioning moral compass. The first year of the new order is chaos. Mining operations shut down when their working conditions fail inspection. Trade routes get reorganized when shipping companies can't meet labor standards. 3 different planetary governments collapse when their economic models turn out to depend entirely on exploitation that's no longer tolerated. But it's productive chaos. Wages go up, working conditions improve. The kind of casual cruelty that powered half the galaxy's economy becomes bad for business. And through it all, the companion beings continue doing what they've always done, taking care of their humans and looking out for each other. Captain Martinez, now commanding the Lucky Strike under the new partnership protocols, finds himself working with Gurble as co-captain rather than pet owner. It's an adjustment, but it turns out Gurble's been ready for increased responsibility for years. You know, Martinez says during one of their planning sessions, "I keep thinking about that day we left you behind." Gurble's translator renders his response as acknowledgement, tactical necessity given available information. But if we'd known. Speculation. Alternative timeline analysis is inefficient. Current timeline optimization is preferable focus. Martinez laughs, because some things about Gurble haven't changed. He's still got that mixture of alien logic and human stubbornness that makes conversations interesting. One question, though. This whole thing, the network, the coordination, the taking over half the galaxy's moral authority. How long were you all planning this? Gurble tilts his head in that way that usually means he's processing something complex, then looks at Martinez with those big golden eyes that started this whole adventure. Clarification. Planning implies premeditation. Actual process, learning from best available teachers, then applying lessons when circumstances required action. And who were the best available teachers? Gurble's response comes with what Martinez swears is the alien equivalent of a smile. Response, "You already know." Because that's the thing about humans and their companions. The galaxy thought humans were training pets, but what they were actually doing was raising a generation that learned human values without human limitations. They learned loyalty without possessiveness, courage without recklessness, and justice without compromise. They learned to be the best parts of humanity, amplified by the best parts of themselves. And now the galaxy belongs to both of them, which is probably what should have happened from the beginning. The Lucky Strike sails on through the star field, crewed by humans and companions working together as equals, but carrying cargo and hope to systems that are still figuring out what cooperation looks like. Behind them, the galaxy slowly transforms itself into something better than what came before. All because nobody had the heart to leave their Muttdog behind.